Morning, Manoj, Vishal, and Mr. Mukund. So Manoj is I am Kozhikode 09 batch, and he has founded Gift XOXO. Gift XOXO is basically an experience gifting company, wherein you can to your vendors provide gifts and experiences. Mr. Vishal is founder of Godot and recently DrumUp. And Mr. Mukund is founder of EcoRaksha, Renew IT. So, starting the first question with Mr. Vishal. So Vishal and myself had a great journey in Cognizant 2006, 2005 timeframe, and then 2008 onwards, you started your own DrumUp, right? So I like surprised and pleasantly surprised to see you move. The first question that came was, what was the Eureka moment? How did you start? And also, not only Godot, but also talk about DrumUp.
So I think, like a lot of people, a lot of founders of companies, I think one of the key things that I faced was when you yourself are faced with a problem, that's when you think that, I need to go and do something about it. And that's when you realize that, maybe I can do it for others as well. Hello? Yeah. And luckily I was, so I was consulting at that time with Accenture, and I was between projects. And one of the things that I realized was that, in consulting, you spend a lot of time solving other people's problems that others have defined for you. But I think it's way more thrilling when you choose your own problems and you work on them. So I think that was the key inspiration behind starting up.
Right. So if you know, Godot Media was one of the first marketplace for content writers. One of the things that intrigued me was, you're in Cognizant, you're in Accenture consulting, right? How did you choose something totally new off the radar, content marketing, and also the marketplace, 2006, 2008 timeframe? What was the thought process?
I think, to be very honest, what we started off with was completely different. And within a few months, you very quickly realize that the direction that you're going in, whether it's right or wrong, and you make very, very quick changes. So, and so recently we started, we started building another product. How many people here are running a startup? Show of hands, quick show of hands. That's a pretty big number. How many people are thinking of running a startup? And how many people are aware of a concept called lean startup methodology? That's a fair number. So this is one of the things that I thought would be useful, for people who haven't heard of it, is that when you are starting up, you get an idea, right? And it's like a germ in your head. And the first advice that I would give is don't do anything about it, because most of the ideas are just crap in the beginning. They are worthless. It takes a lot of pain, a lot of time to go through executing an idea. So just sit on it for a while. If it keeps coming back again and again, and you will probably resolve it in your head a little bit, then you know that you want to execute it. But one of the key things that a lot of people keep saying these days, and it's a very good advice, that you need to fail fast so that you make sure that you are on the right path. So, there's a methodology that you can use, which is developed recently, probably useful for some guys, is that when you have an idea in your head, you figure out what is the hypothesis. That's a basic thing to do. But then you figure out what are the riskiest assumptions that you're making that are going to make this product successful. One by one, then you go out and try to validate these assumptions. If any of them fails, then you pivot very, very quickly. Matter of months, not years, because by that time you would have lost all your energy, and it's very difficult to take it forward from there.
Thanks. Thank you. I think this makes sense. So the second question goes to Mr. Manoj. Mr. Manoj had founded giftxoxo.com, and again an innovative startup. Now, no more a startup, I believe. And when you started the e-commerce or the portal, that time not many players were in the same field, right? So the question that comes naturally was, what was the validation methodology that you had? Or let's put this way, how did you measure the total market value? How did you jump into it?
Yeah. So before I started Gift XOX, so I was one of the initial members with the Flipkart team, handling their entire marketing. So that was the times when Flipkart was working out of a small 4 BHK house from Koramangala. So that time, when we used to do some data analysis, we found that in the entire contribution of top lines, gifting was contributing to almost like 4 to 5%, which by the standards of e-commerce is quite large. And when I did a similar analysis for a couple of other offline companies like a Shoppers Stop or a Lifestyle or the flowers and cakes kind of companies, and even the likes of Cadbury's, gifting is one of the major contributors in each one of their revenue schemes. And that is when I and one of my close friends, we found that overall gifting is a large opportunity in terms of the market size. And at the same time, there are a lot of areas which are kind of unsold into the entire gifting ecosystem, where many times each one of us here would have received one or the other gift during their lifetimes. A typical example is an Indian wedding, where you actually get some 60 to 70 gifts, and most of them, when you open them, you are very excited, but when you kind of open and check it out, you find that there are 5 mixer juicer grinders and then 5 washing machines and XYZ. So you actually end up using only 2 or 3 of them, and the rest you actually pack it up back and then find some other victim in some other occasion and then pass it on. So this recycling keeps going, and that is where we started finding some good solutions around it. There were some interesting developments in the US market around gifting, and we took some of those developments and then kind of fine-tuned that particular idea to the Indian market requirements.
Thank you. I mean, that's very interesting. So coming to the recycling part, I'll talk to Mr. Mukund. And when I was reading Mr. Mukund's website, EcoRaksha or Renew IT, the major theme is about recycling old computers, recycling old printers, and providing a value to children, something like MIT's 1 laptop per child. So how did you start? And I know you had been one of the TED speakers. How did you start the whole journey from recycling to Renew IT to EcoRaksha?
So, I mean, it was serendipity. In 2009, I met a person from the US at one of these boring Indian weddings. So, like, what he does is he buys back old computers. He then strips them apart and sells the parts to companies which did maintenance. So he explained that in the US, it's a mature market with like 80% kind of an IT penetration. So there was a big demand for spare parts always, because these computers don't have a warranty after a year or a couple years. And since technology changes so rapidly, the OEMs don't manufacture the spare parts anymore. And that was the niche that he had found for himself. That got me thinking. I mean, India has a 10% IT penetration. So why would you want to take these old computers, strip them apart, when instead if you can repair them, refurbish them, and provide it to millions of Indians, then we could change their life forever. So we started off as an e-waste management company to get all these old computers as EcoRaksha. And over a period of time, we realized that actually the big demand, as Ashok said, I mean, see what the customer wants. So the heart of the digital divide in India is because of the affordability issue. I mean, 20,000 rupees for a computer is beyond the reach of, I think, 80% of India. So we started refurbishing these, and we sell computers for as low as 4,000, 4,500 to schools, NGOs, and I mean, we saw that there's a lot of impact that's created because of that. So we transitioned from EcoRaksha to Renew IT, where we started refurbishing these systems and providing them at very low cost to people who can't afford new ones.
Thank you so much. Really insightful. I mean, given my experience that I have now 3 laptops, Windows XP, that I don't use anymore, I might come to you and say, hey, why not? So coming back to Mr. Vishal, DrumUp had been one of the success stories since last 3 to 6 months, right? When you build a product, you marketed it. So between building and marketing, there are so many iterations you might have done.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what are the market validations? How did you get the feedback from your end customers? How did it help you to iterate the product finally?
I think one of the major challenges in technology products these days is that there are 3, especially if you're targeting the US market, there are 3 interfaces that you have to worry about: your website, your mobile app, which includes iOS and Android. So the effort has kind of become 2x in that, and your iterations also have become much longer. So it's pretty difficult to do all at one go. So what we decided was that we'll obviously follow a staged approach, do a website first and so on. But in terms of validation, I think it's important to get some influencers, some key people on board right in the beginning who you think are indicators of the market that you're trying to go to, right? So, for example, for us, social media guys were very important. So, what was critical for us was to get validation from somebody who is a thought leader, who is an influential guy in that particular industry. Once we get a validation, I can't go and get validation from 10,000 people right in the beginning, right? So you rely on these indicator guys, and if you get validation from them, then you can then go ahead and start building a product.
Sure. Thank you. So one question, very interesting question that Manoj, I want to ask you. Your market validation came through Flipkart, right? During your time, was there no non-compete that you had with Flipkart that employees cannot, I know Amazon has, that cannot start your own company in the same space? Was there any legal hurdle that you faced?
Not really, because what we were doing was very different from what Flipkart vision is. I mean, they are more of a horizontal e-commerce player, where we were only doing a vertical. And second is, I really doubt that most of the startups have these kind of clauses, where unless you are doing a really innovative Apple kind of a product, where you really need some kind of an R&D. Most of the startups are really open that, I mean, if you are doing something, if the startup is doing something, you can always do something in the same space. So except for R&D kind of companies, most of the companies are quite open in these kind of schemes.
Thanks. So I think we have another 5 minutes. What I'll do is that one question to Mr. Mukund. So Mukund, one thing is about you have an idea about laptops and renewing it and everything. What about the other end? How is the market receptive about the second hand or used products? How did you develop the marketing channels?
In India, there is no taboo with used. I mean, like, at least in our parents' generation, when they were growing up, like one sibling would give their clothes to another sibling, who would then it would become a jadu, then it would become like something which would use for the car cleaning or something.
Gone through that.
Indians don't have a taboo with using used products. And also now with OLX Quicker and all coming in, like, people are more receptive to buying other people, I mean, like, pre-owned stuff. So I don't think that was a challenge at all. The bigger challenge that we're seeing now as we're scaling is the after-sales support. I mean, initially we were like a Bangalore player, so we could provide after-sales support. Now we've been selling to as far as Arunachal Pradesh, and I can't give after-sales support there. So that's something that we're trying to address.
Sure, thank you. So I leave another 5 minutes to third audience, and I think I see a hand there. Can somebody support with mic? You are. Go ahead. So introduce yourself briefly. You are Mr. Vasundhara?
Vasundhara from IIM Calcutta.
Sure, thank you.
I take care of Acceleron Indian operations here. My question to Manoj would be, how do you build the credibility factor when you're targeting like far out places? Like most of these second-hand or used product sales happen in local markets, right? I mean, if you look at Second to None Group, for example, on Facebook, that is pretty local. It's only for Bangalore, or maybe to Chennai, or maybe to some other place. But when there is a middle player coming in and saying, okay, there is a product, and I'm basically selling this to you, then I start questioning, okay, are you credible? Then whatever you are going to sell, will it work or not? How do you fix that problem?
So initially we were a Bangalore player, as I said, because we had credibility here, we knew people, and that's how the market expanded. So we've been around for 6 years now. We've been featured on various forums, like you said, TED and other platforms. So the credibility part is there. So we're not in the like this B2C sector in terms of like if you look at phones, it's generally like a consumer has a phone and he sells it to someone else. So an intermediary doesn't add value there. We're more in the desktop, laptop space where we pick it up from corporates. We have a B2B sourcing channel and a B2C selling channel. So that's where we can add a lot of value, because the corporates are not going to sell them to individuals saying, okay, do you want a computer? Have one, kind of a thing. And again, with the desktop or a laptop, you need them to be certified. It's like a pre-owned car. Even though you can still sell your car to someone else, most people end up going to a Maruti True Value or I mean, there are tons of these second-hand car markets. So that's where we add our value, saying, okay, this is certified by us, it's refurbished by us, and we would give you an after-sales support. So that's how we've gone about it.
Any more questions? It's 11:10. Time for next question. So one more question, last question. Go ahead, introduce yourself and ask the question.
My name is Rohit, and this question is particular to Mr. Vishal. You mentioned that, when you have the innovative idea, just mull over it for a while and then, think, discuss. The concern that comes with the innovative ideas is that, the moment you discuss the idea with somebody else, it might no longer be innovative. I get 3 ideas a week, and the problem is all of them are innovatives. So, how to research about them, where to find the indicators or where to find the people where we can discuss and really mull over it before, thinking of execution.
I think ideas are pretty overvalued. Ideas have really no value. They're completely worthless. So just by discussing it with somebody, the idea is not losing anything, because there's nothing to lose really. Everything is going to come from the execution. And until you have actually spent that 1 year building, or whatever, X months building out that product, it's really completely useless. But coming to your part about how do you validate whether it's a good idea or not, I think it would be wise to have some advisors who you can rely on, who are not really going to just run with your idea and try to execute. Even if they do, actually, it doesn't really matter in the end, because the battle is really won in execution. It's not, everybody knows, every idea that you can think of. So there is a website which lists like 100 ideas every week. Everything that you can think of has already been thought of by somebody else, but it hasn't been executed by everybody else. So that's the key. So don't focus on the idea so much. Most likely it's going to change in the first 2 months of execution. And most of the successful companies you see today started off with something else, right? So YouTube was something else, Twitter was something else. So don't overthink the idea. Once you are convinced about the market space that you're focusing on, and you can build a team around it, then just go ahead with it.
I think it makes sense. You want? Okay. One question. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Himani. My question is for Mr. Manoj. We've all seen that there's been a huge increase in the amount of internet penetration in rural areas. If I may ask, has there also been an increase in the traffic that Gift XOXO gets from the rural areas? And what kind of potential do you see in those areas?
Yeah, yes, rural areas, if you talk about, say, tier 3 kind of places, yes, there is a traffic, not only for us, but any other e-commerce player in India. But if you're talking about deep down into the rural side, it is still way to go, because that crowd is still more into mobile space, and the delivery is a big challenge over there. So it is more of a logistics problem rather than a internet penetration problem over there.
But do we see the number of site visits and the traffic increasing from those parts of the country?
Yes. So both the site traffic, the number of visitors, the number of transactions, everything is on the rise, as well as the kind of spends the rural guys are able to do are as good as the urban crowd. Just that for any startup or any other company, they generally focus on the metros and the tier 1 cities because they are easy to reach, whereas rural penetration for any company is really tough and it takes time. So for me as a company, I would try the low hanging fruits, which are again the metros, and then get into the deep rural India.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Muni.